Like 4 of the minutes is me peeing.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? You ever yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I'm one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all that information and past episodes at shatpod.com. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
Well, Gene and dear listeners, tonight's film is a dual commission by listeners Wes and Fernando. This movie, hopefully, it'll make you feel smart, confused, uneasy, and vaguely judged all at the same time. This is a film where jet engines might fall from the sky, adults are deeply unqualified to guide their children, and a guy in a terrifying bunny suit thinks he knows the future. Part teen angst, part sci-fi headache, and part suburban nightmare disguised as a fall festival. We are here to untangle, hopefully, this mystery box looping question about authority. Buckle down, because nothing makes sense, and that's kind of the point. So it is the 2001 American science fiction psychological thriller, Donnie Darko.
And this was a group commission, which we love to do when listeners come together and chip in for a movie. So Wes and Fernando got together. Wes wrote in to explain why Donnie Darko was commissioned. He said, "Good evening, Shat crew. Where to begin? Let me start by saying thank you to Gene, Big D, Ash, Carrie, and Roger for the years of week-to-week entertainment. I started listening somewhere around the beginning of the podcast and have listened to every episode, most of them multiple times. It's wild to think I've been listening to you guys talk for almost 10 years. The amount of work and dedication you put into the podcast is incredible. How you manage to watch a film in its entirety each week and record and edit an episode is beyond me. Not to mention your other podcasts and projects. Props to both of you for somehow finding the time." Okay. So I first saw Donnie Darko at 14 years old, right around the time of the DVD release. This was within the same week or two that I first saw SLC Punk, and the two movies have had a lasting effect on my life. Experiencing Donnie Darko for the first time changed my perception of film and what it could be. I'd never seen anything like it, and consequently had no idea when the movie was made. For all I knew, it was an old movie full of unknown actors set in the present day of when it was filmed. The more mature and adult themes were lost on me, but it was all about how it made me feel. Stylistically, amazing. Visually, stunning. The dialogue felt grounded and real. Was that what high school would be like? Could I be as cool as Donnie when I got there? No, I opted for more of a Steve-O Mohawk SLC Punk vibe, but I really wasn't that cool either. Donnie Darko made me see the world a little differently. It made me think about my existence. It was transformative. Donnie was fighting for the misfits. He was a superhero without being a superhero. Ultimately, the movie feels emo, independent, original, and introspective. Aspects of film a typical superhero movie has little of. When the initial 2000s commissions were posted, this was the first movie that came to mind. It's long overdue, and now it's finally happening. On to my Shat score. Personally, I'd give it half a wipe for the way it makes me feel alone. Still to this day, it's nearly perfect. But that's not the point of the podcast. So, does it still hold up? In a lot of ways, yes. In some ways, no. There are times that the acting can be a bit amateurish. The tone feels somewhat undecided and disjointed. Some of the special effects have always been laughable. If you've seen the movie, you know which effect looks the worst. On the other hand, it's not like we're looking at a big budget summer blockbuster. We're looking at a passion project, a film where many got their start, whether it be the actors or the writer, director. We're looking at an intriguing, entertaining, creative, and independent piece of art. The perfect film for an angsty teenager. but it's still not perfect. That's why I'd say realistically, it's probably somewhere around 1.5 wipes. Excited to hear Gene's take on a film that's nearly guaranteed to be an all-time favorite, and something tells me the Smiths fan and Big D will love it too. So stoked to be part of this first viewing. Thank you so much to my fellow commissioners for making this happen. That's another Shat in the can. Good night and good luck. That comes from Wes.
This is one of those rare occasions. We don't even need to record this.
Nope.
Wes, he has covered almost every single base. Very accurate, very thoughtful. It's nice for us to see why this movie was important. We could wrap it up here. Do we talk about next week's film?
We put all of our notes in when we're doing the pod. The last thing that goes into it is your letter.
Yes.
Or voicemail in the case of voicemail. So we don't allow the commissioner's thoughts on the film to pollute our viewing of the film. It's intentional so that we don't necessarily try to agree or disagree with you. In this case, I feel like you were right here with us on this pod.
But also, Gene, you've mentioned this before. And last week, if you listen past the trailer, there's a moment of us discussing before we record your shock and disgust that I record on my phone as I dictate my notes. And I watch movies alone with my headphones late at night. And on those rare occasions where I'm actually really fired up about a movie, I will almost live message you as the movie is going along. And you just sit there quietly like, that's mildly interesting. Wow. Yep. Maybe you should see something there. I'm like, who is that Chinese girl? You're like, maybe you're paying attention now.
Could she be an alien?
Ooh, maybe she's behind all this shenanigans. So
did you see the way she looked at Drew Barrymore?
Exactly. So I'm excited. This was one of those movies that I did message you. So I think it's long overdue.
Also, Fernando, thank you for all of your incredible commissions for this podcast. And Wes, 10 years of listening, man, that is dedication. You've been here since day one, probably longer than I've been here. And we really, really appreciate it. It's why we keep doing the podcast. Wes told us about how he was exposed to this movie as a 14-year-old. This was a really interesting time, 2001, for film consumption in general. We didn't have streaming services. We didn't have viral clips. So there was nothing there to satisfy the appetite for quirky films other than everyone downloading pirated movies, using torrents, burning DVDs. This was all like new tech for us, and it was very, very hot. I was on campus at the time at Arizona State University, and this was like all we did in our free time. And it seemed the more indie and dark the movie, the more likely someone on campus would push you a copy. And that's how I discovered Donnie Darko. It was a bad rip. The image was not perfect on my dorm room monitor, which was not, don't think flat screens like today, guys. It was a fucking CRT tube, like big ass 20-pound monitor. But I knew I was watching something special that would become a cult phenomenon in my generation. And it really has been. You talk to anybody in their 40s who is into film in their 20s, and Donnie Darko always comes up.
See, I was in the military when this came out. I was at Fort Campbell. But I think in college, I was running with a different crowd. So there was nobody who had been pushing me, push me a copy.
Yeah, push me a copy.
Hey, you know what, Big D? You got to go check this out. It's really deep and it's dark and angsty. That's not what I would get back then.
I want to paint a picture for the listeners who didn't experience this, but college at that time, particularly my experience, this was on par with drugs. People would show up and they'd be like, hey, I got shrooms, I got some weed, maybe a little meth, and also Donnie Darko. And you would just like show up at friends' houses, parties, dorm rooms, whatever, late at night, and you would just, swap DVDs, swap drugs. That was just how it went.
We used to play GoldenEye I mean, for hours and hours and hours because it was cutting edge. You could get squad members. You'd go the multiplayer version. It was great. The movies we could get were also big that we could buy at the PX. But I was watching Armageddon over and over again. That was my jam. But nobody ever showed me this movie. Nobody would have been like, this is so angsty. You got to see this. It just wasn't my thing. So when Wes and Fernando commissioned this, I want to thank them because I never would have seen this film. I purposely avoided films like this. I never would have watched Donnie Darko. In my mind, looking at the poster, this was what I thought blindly. I was thinking Final Destination, Butterfly Effect, something between that. Yeah. Neither one sounded appealing, and it was going to be some kind of combination. Little did I know how close I was to that description. But today I was more open to it and more excited to see it because, like you said, Gene, this is, if you're a connoisseur of film, if you are an artisan, you should see this film and understand its place in 2090s, film history.
It also leaves you feeling a lot better than Requiem for a Dream. So
I still have never seen that.
Oh God. It's so, don't. You'll feel gross inside forever. It's something you can't wash off. Like you can't unsee it. It's terrible.
I've unseen Two Girls, One Cup. How could I not unsee Requiem for a Dream?
Two Girls, One Cup is fucking Wizard of Oz compared to Requiem for a Dream.
I've seen Human Centipede. I saw Faces of Death.
That's fake.
No. The original bootleg copies, the ones that they had in the back with the adult-only section. If you're telling me, is it mentally torturing or is it like visually, like it makes you want to throw up?
It makes you want to throw up, but also mentally torturing. Just don't. I wish I'd never seen it. How's that?
I feel like you're overreacting.
Well, Donnie Darko is a 2001 science fiction psychological thriller written by Richard Kelly in his directorial debut. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Jenna Malone, Drew Barrymore, Mary McDonnell, Catherine Ross, Patrick Swayze, Noah Wyle, and Seth Rogen in his film debut. Set in October 1988, the film follows Donnie Darko, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, a troubled teenager who escapes a bizarre accident by sleepwalking. Kelly insisted on directing the film himself and struggled to secure backing from producers until 2000, when Pandora Cinema and Drew Barrymore's Flower Films agreed to produce it. Filming took 28 days in the summer of 2000, mostly in California. Because the film's advertising featured a crashing plane and the September 11th attacks had occurred a month and a half before, Donnie Darko was scarcely advertised and grossed just $500,000 in its initial run. Donnie Darko was listed number 2 in Empire's 50 Greatest Independent Films of All Time and number 53 in Empire's 500 Greatest Movies of All Time. The film was adapted into a stage production in 2007, and a sequel, S. Darko, followed in 2009 without Kelly's involvement. In 2021, Kelly announced that work on a new sequel is in progress.
A stage performance? It's like Stranger Things. They did like a prequel. Why? Why, people?
Let's hit the trailer.
I met a new friend.
Real or imaginary?
Imaginary.
A young man has come to the end of an era.
We are losing these kids.
Now, the only way to save what he loves
Time is running out.
is to follow what he fears.
Donnie!
We're just gonna stop.
You should already know that.
Donnie Darko. Rated R.
On October 2nd, 1988, troubled teenager Donnie Darko sleepwalks outside and meets a figure named Frank in a monstrous rabbit costume. Frank tells Donnie that the world will end in 28 days. Donnie wakes up the next morning on a golf course and returns home to discover a jet engine has crashed into his bedroom. FAA investigators do not know the engine's origin.
So if you watch The Sixth Sense and you know there's some big twist, you're going to watch it differently. So I'm instantly thinking back to like the TV, the Shat on TV, and like Westworld. I'm trying to break down every scene. I'm scanning for clues. I'm looking for weird background characters or picking up like little clues. And right away, just normally, if I wasn't thinking that, I would say, okay, Donnie's kind of a messed up rich kid. He's on meds. He can't get his act together. He's brooding. He's sarcastic. He's talking shit. He's clearly got something going on under the surface. And it makes the whole opening just seem like he's this weird teen family tense drama about not knowing what's going to happen. But because I knew that little piece, that there is a twist, it made it hard to be objective as the film starts.
You were talking about how you texted me and I was giving you commentary back. I love that you picked this up this early in the film. It's why Donnie Darko might be one of those rare movies that's even better on rewatch. I'm not generally a person who rewatches movies. I'll do it for the podcast, but usually once is enough. This is one of those movies that gets better each time you watch it. You start to notice things like how oddly calm Donnie's family is. You had a jet engine land in your home, in your son's bedroom. You don't know where he is. He shows up. You would think that there would be more of reaction. So you know something's up here. Mm-hmm. It causes you, these little off moments cause you to scrutinize the whole movie. And that is perfect because so many details are intentional that they want you to look as closely as possible.
But that entire opening, he starts off and he's like on his bicycle. He's sitting in the street. And I'm thinking back to that Nicolas Cage film with In the Arms of an Angel, where like he's an angel and she's riding the bike and she crashes. So I'm thinking he's dead. So then I text you, Gene, he might be dead. And then immediately I text back, Gene, he's not dead because we're seeing other characters have conversations. You know something's up. And I can't undo that. Instead of thinking fucked up kid, I'm thinking, ooh, there's something, this is something mystical going on.
I'm going to try to recover from the sadness you just imparted on me by reminding me of City of Angels and that ending. Is it safe to say Jake Gyllenhaal was born for the role of Donnie Darko?
Yes.
He's got that psychotic grin. He looks mad but sleepy at the same time. He's got those eyes, which, by the way, Jake Gyllenhaal can only see about 20 feet in front of him in real life. So I think there is something to that, the way he looks at things, the way he moves through the world. If I hadn't seen Jake Gyllenhaal in different roles in later movies, I would have believed that the real Jake Gyllenhaal was an unstable misfit kid who sees giant bunnies and sleepwalks. He seems like that guy. And Donnie is the star of the show, deservedly. He is an incredibly complex character to nail down for a guy this early in his career. He's not unpopular. He isn't mainstream. He isn't outspoken, but he isn't gregarious. And he's deep. He has this depth to him, but he's still very much a teenager. And Jake Gyllenhaal, he gets every contour of this character, and he just slips into that skin. It's that rare performance that we see in 1 out of 100 movies that makes me savor every frame he's in.
Donnie Darko, he is that perfect balance. He's a smart kid. Often he's smarter than the teachers. They comment like subtly once about like his state scores and that he is on the very, very high end. So when he acts out, they're a little surprised. But he's not nerdy.
No.
He's not a bookworm. He's super horny under hypnosis. He's got his hand down his pants. He's talking about like jerking off to was it Married with Children and Christina Applegate?
Kelly Bundy.
But Gene, I'm unable to separate Jake Gyllenhaal, the man, as a Taylor Swift fan.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of our listeners are Taylor Swift fans. I cannot separate the Jake Gyllenhaal, the actor, Donnie Darko, the character, from the Jake Gyllenhaal that broke Taylor's heart. I mean, there's the song, Gene. It's called All Too Well, and I should send it to you. It's a 10-minute version that talks about their relationship from the start to the end and emotionally how Jake hurt her. So I think I want to share some of the lines, Gene, that just emotionally wrecked me. He was not a good guy. He lied to her and he never gave real commitment. The line called me up again just to break me like a promise. It's heartbreaking. He walked away from her. You know, multiple times. He kept symbols of their relationship. He stole her scarf and kept it in a drawer. He dismissed the seriousness of the relationship, where Taylor says, I was a crumpled up piece of paper lying on the floor. You know, how do you break Taylor's heart like that? I've listened to the song multiple times, Cutting the Grass, and I look at him and I'm just like, besides thinking, wow, this dude, he had sex with Taylor Swift, I'm thinking, how could he be such an asshole?
He was 29 years old.
Correct. She was a child, Gene. And he used that difference in age and maturity to manipulate her. It's tough. I watch him and I just picture Taylor like sitting with a piece of paper on the floor writing the lyrics.
So I'm really not familiar with this guy's filmography or his life story. I thought he was a decent dude. I know that he does like darker movies like Nightcrawler, which I also haven't seen. Cops and Soldiers. He likes to do Cops and Soldiers. Is that his thing?
He's also in Zodiac.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that either. Fuck.
Taylor, Gene, as the kids say, the sick burn. She gives him a sick burn that highlights how much older.
It's about his dick.
Power imbalance. At that point, he was a big star. She was a small artist. And the age gap, she said, this is the final lines of the song, Gene, as it fades out, says, I'll get older, but your lovers stay the same age. Ooh, sick burn.
That's a compliment in my book.
You look at Donnie and you're like, damn, if I was a teenage girl.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not? He's perfect.
Dude, when he looks over his shoulder back at Gretchen, oof.
Dude, he's got cool friends.
Fire.
He stands up to bullies.
Yeah.
He takes shit talking well. His family seems to be okay. Yes, if I was a teenage girl, I'd be all into Donnie. And Jake, for that matter.
He rides his bicycle and protects the environment.
Fuck, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's
Looks
smart.
good in a hoodie. He can drive an axe into a statue. That's strength.
Yeah, fuck, no joke. Yeah.
Donnie's parents, Eddie and Rose, send him to psychotherapist Dr. Thurman, who believes Donnie is detached from reality and that his visions of Frank are daylight hallucinations, symptomatic of paranoid schizophrenia. Frank asks Donnie if he believes in time travel, and Donnie, in turn, asks science teacher Dr. Kenneth Monatoff. Monatoff gives Donnie The Philosophy of Time Travel, a book written by Roberta Sparrow, a former science teacher at the school who now lives outside of town, known to the local teenagers as Grandma Death. Frank begins to influence Donnie's actions, causing him to flood his high school by breaking a water main. And Donnie later starts dating Gretchen Ross, who has recently moved into town with her mother to escape her violent stepfather.
So I imagine if you had watched this back in 2001, the trailers and the commercials, you would have known something was weird. But the movie does a good job of showing us this surreal vibe without making it a bit too much. There's enough that's odd. You get like the new girl comes into class, and instead of usually a teacher's like, hey, find a seat, she's like, find a seat next to the boy who you think is cute. And the kids are doing like bumps in the hallway. It's a little 90210 where they're doing coke in the hallway, and it's no big deal. Then you get a full Tears for Fears montage with no dialogue. It's just music. Oh, Sparkle Motion is like rehearsing, and it's just slow motion dancing, kind of like Heather's, kind of like Smells Like Teen Spirit. So even though I don't know what's going on yet, I'm not sure. Is it a dream? You know something's up, but you can't quite. It's a really good way of showing something is weird and strange, but not going to the absurd.
The director, Richard Kelly, seems to have reversed the formula for using music in a film. I picked up on this during the montage. It really felt like the director was taking inspiration from an existing music video. Like there were elements of that library scene in the Tears for Fears video, and then making the movie match that. It was like bootstrapping a cultural phenomenon. It's a shared experience we all had. We all saw that video on MTV. And I don't know if it's genius or just lazy, but I like it.
I was not bored. There was not this movie is over 2 hours, and I didn't feel it.
No.
It flies by and it stays interesting. You've got familiar things like the high school. You can't quite place what it is. And that goes into the family. We go from Donnie, we meet the rest of his family, and there's a simple scene. So you go from this surreal, weird experience at school to back, we meet the whole family at dinner. And it is great writing. It's layered dialogue. Each character is talking across the table. It's like Tarantino, we talk about during Reservoir Dogs, that like diner scene where they're talking about tipping and they're talking about whether you're going to be pink or you're going to be white, what color you are. And it's just this whole conversation that seems real. It feels like a family talks. There's insecurity, there's frustration. Brother and sister are talking shit in front of the younger sister. The parents are trying to keep control of it. It feels like a real messy household without trying too hard. There's sarcasm. You can tell something's going on. Half of the family is annoyed at the other half. You don't know why. It's a dysfunctional dynamic that felt real to me. It felt like my family, to be honest. My family is loud. My family is rude. But it's weirdly the way New Yorkers and my family loves. There's moments of humor and irritation that mix together. Like Vanessa often thinks, she goes, your family's too much. Because it comes across as hostile to people who didn't grow up in it. But it's kind of how we love. It's our love language. And seeing this family in a grounded moment of just a family meal, you understand the full dynamic of everyone that did not need exposition and backstory, and seeing people, super, super smart.
Yeah, I commented on 3 O'Clock High how refreshing it was to see a movie with siblings who look out for each other. In almost every 80s and 90s movies, the kids are at each other's throats. They're sabotaging each other. They hate each other. You know, the parents have to bring them together. Maybe there's some resolution in the end, but they're not backing each other the whole movie. In Donnie Darko, it is so important that Donnie has these supportive parents who are kind of cool. Like, I would want these parents to be around. Dad's kind of chill. I mean, he likes Bush, but other than that, he's pretty cool. He's blasting Elizabeth with the leaf blower. Mom is supportive of Donnie's outspokenness. You know, they try not to crack smiles when the teachers are freaking out. Mom hates Kitty. Donnie celebrates Elizabeth. Like, she gets into Harvard, and he's like, yeah, let's throw a party together. There's the normal family tension, like you mentioned, at the dinner table, but you can tell underneath that all, they love each other. And that makes it so Donnie isn't the product of a broken home, right? It's a good house to be growing up in. There are other things happening. Big D, I mentioned earlier that Drew Barrymore helped bankroll this film. I worry that this was like a pay to play sort of situation because she got a huge role in this movie as Karen Pomeroy. So she's Donnie's teacher. You mentioned, she says, sit next to the boy you think is cutest. She gets to go on about, racy literature and fire up the kids. She's fostering free thought, and she cautions that the real danger is apathy. So she's basically doing a Dead Poet Society. This role is way too big. It's way too important. And she absolutely mishandles it. It's hard to watch the way she delivers these lines, the way she moves through. She is not a teacher. And nothing against Drew Barrymore. In the things that she's good in, she's great. But she was not the actor for the job.
No, she's like a background. She's like an extra. But yet they gave her some dialogue that seemed like she meant more. There's a moment where we meet Drew Barrymore and Noah Weil. And it seems like they know what's going on. The way they talk to each other, they keep giving like these sneaky glances back and forth. So I'm like, okay, are they from the future? Are they somehow manipulating what's going on? You feel like they're hiding something from the rest of the movie. It's almost as if I expected a reveal at the end that it would turn out that they were pulling the strings, or maybe it was some kind of a big psychological experiment where Donnie was under some kind of therapeutic hypnosis and they were the doctors doing the exam. It's weird because if it was on purpose, okay, that they wanted it to be ambiguous and throw you off the trail, cool. I'm good with that. It's okay. But if not, it feels like these two performances just didn't line up with everything else and the purpose of the ultimate reveal of what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely intentional. And people who have done research on Donnie Darko or visited the website when it was around or read up on it know that they're about the concepts like the manipulated dead, the manipulated living. These two are, I believe, manipulated living, and they are trying to drive Donnie toward a thing. It's like why she writes cellar door on the chalkboard, and then Donnie goes to Sparrow's cellar door, and it advances the plot. It's also why this science teacher happens to have this book, this forbidden book that Roberta Sparrow wrote, but I can't talk about it anymore. Oh, because I could lose my job. No, it's because it can't tell you. Even that, I would say that Drew Barrymore, you can be a real person and have an agenda. Yes. She doesn't even seem like a real person. It's just she's in over her head.
No, but you don't cast Drew Barrymore in that character. If Grandma Death was Glenn Close, you'd be like, oh shit, there's something going on. We're going to find out the backstory here. That's not just Glenn Close walking around in a nightgown getting hit by a car or almost. Give that to an actress who's not established.
Yeah, but then she wouldn't get her money's worth though. She ponied up $1 million. She wants her big role.
Yeah, it's selfish. Self-indulgent.
Well, gym teacher Kitty Farmer begins teaching attitude lessons taken from local motivational speaker Jim Cunningham, played by Patrick Swayze. But Donnie rebels, leading to friction between Kitty and Rose. When Gretchen falls asleep on a movie date, Frank appears to Donnie as a teenager with his right eye hollow and bleeding. He convinces Donnie to burn down Cunningham's house, where firefighters discover a kitty porn dungeon. Cunningham is arrested, and Kitty, who wishes to testify in his defense, asks Rose to replace her as chaperone for their daughter's dance troupe on its trip to Los Angeles.
I could not separate. I kept thinking Magnolia, the Tom Cruise. You told me he's kind of motivational speaker, so I'm thinking TJ Mackey. I'm thinking he's going to be some scumbag. Jim Cunningham, he gets busted for child porn. I was not expecting that reveal, and they don't even waste any time. You just think he's going to be a general dirtbag, but he turns out to be the worst kind of dirtbag. And suddenly Kitty, who's been up on her high horse, she's been preaching Bible thumping morality and teachers, and we shouldn't be reading these books. And she's the biggest defender of righteousness. Immediately when he gets busted, she has to show up, eat crow, and knock on the door on the Darko's house, on the Darko's home, and say, you know, it's a conspiracy. It's a smear job. It's anything but the truth. And this felt so current. I mean, this is 2001. And I don't know why. I'm not religious, right? Usually the people who preach purity were the ones who scream the most about some kind of specific sin or some kind of specific wrong that's going on, are usually the one that are doing it. If someone comes out against homosexuality, I'm like, okay, let's look into this person's backstory. It always seems to turn out that the people who rail against it use it as some kind of a shield. To watch this now, this subplot, it might be the most current 2025 thing about this film. The way that Jim Cunningham is put on this pedestal, but yet secretly is a pervert. And then everybody, when he falls, quickly defends him with some conspiracy.
Came out in 2001. It's about 1988. Feels relevant in 2025. There's a timelessness to it. And part of the reason why Richard Kelly chose to do it in 88 was to give it a certain timelessness, make it analog, simplify the story a little bit, and make it so it's something that feels current all the time. And there's this great standoff between Donnie and Kitty. And it makes me smile every time because the world needs more Donnies, right? Kitty is sitting there and she's saying, well, everything falls on the spectrum. She draws it on the chalkboard. Fear on the left, love on the right. And she asks the kids to come and read a situation with great illustrations, by the way, and mark an X on the line where that falls on the spectrum between fear and love. Why? Because Jim Cunningham says that's the way the world is, right? And Donnie argues that there's an entire spectrum of humanity that is not binary. Big D, we've all experienced moments like this. You go into some leadership workshop or some bullshit or some sort of compliance training you have to do, whether it's at work or at school, and you're forced into a program that follows set framework. You know it doesn't match reality, but you got to go through it anyway. Do you guys at work, did you guys do did you do the personality assessments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm embarrassed to say my current employer and my last two bosses have made our entire department do this test where we're gonna see what our color is, and then we're also gonna see what our animal is. So today I went, Gina, I looked it up. It's called Discover Your Animal Personality. It's cringe, dude. And it says it's like an elephant, it's like a lion, it's like a gazelle.
Oh.
And on the site, I went and looked it up. They're like, over 20 million people have used it. This is companies worldwide, Fortune 500. And it says the 4F of your animal personality are fighting, fleeing, feeding, and sex. And it is your personality.
Come on.
I swear, go to the website.
Sex isn't an F.
You can picture in some boardroom, this sounds like a great thing.
Just remind me when Roger was doing like his whole like self-revolution. It was like, I'm focusing on the 3 Fs right now. Faith, family, and fitness.
No, friendship. Was it friendship too? Or
Maybe it was 4 Fs.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Fs. It's because he didn't know his animal personality.
We have the predictive index at work. And what's fascinating about that is you answer all these questions and it rates you on like your impulsiveness, your formality, and all that stuff.
Oh my God.
And the idea is, Big D, I shit you not, when I've had conflict with other people at work, HR, because I'm famous for being reported to HR, they will send me that person's predictive index and they'll say, consider these things when you're communicating with that person. And the problem I have with that is there's a much easier and more direct way to get to that, which is you talk to another human being. You say, hey, Big D, how do you prefer to communicate? Do you like to get email, a phone call? Do you like to be reminded of stuff often or not? I don't need my fucking predictive index. It's absolutely ridiculous. Once or twice a year, Big D, I like to do a hard 45. I challenge myself to do these habits every single day for 45 days. Drink a gallon of water, sleep 7 hours, get an hour of exercise, stick to my macros, journal, weigh in, take a progress photo, and read 10 pages every day. Sounds really tough to do, but what you find out is if you prioritize those things that you have to do, the non-negotiables, you realize that you find a way to fit them in and that there's other less important stuff that has to slide, like fucking wasting time doom scrolling, right? You fail a day, you got to start over. And a few Shat listeners have tried to do this with me. Only Sarah has completed a hard 45 with me. Everybody else has dropped out at some point along the way. Anyway, when I was first introduced to the concept, the first time I did a hard 45, and some people do a hard 70 or hard 75, the reading rule was self-help book. It had to be a self-help book. And I argued against the person running the thing that fiction is far better for self-help and actually growing as a person. And nonfiction makes you more informed, so that's beneficial too. Self-help books generally are horribly written. They're Jim Cunningham. They are far too narrow to foster true development. And I don't know why schools and businesses still use them. I would argue that Karen, Donnie's teacher, is doing more for those kids by having them read literature than Kitty is by having them learn about fear and control.
So I actually agree with you on this one. I think, I laugh at most self-help books because you think it's like people who teach like I'm going to teach you the secrets of real estate. If you're really successful in real estate, I'm not going to waste my time writing a book to teach my competition how to be more successful in real estate. So, self-help people who like think they've like figured it out, it's all bullshit. I think fiction can be subliminal. You can sit down, you watch a show, a movie, there's flawed people, there's bad decisions, there's uncomfortable truths, and people can see what's going on. You can lay out possible real outcomes, see real growth. When you're reading like a self-help book, to me, there's like, oh, here's my 5 ideas. They come up with like a simplification of a few rules, maybe a couple bullet points, and then there's a lot of motivational yelling. It's kind of like the alpha male. Do you want to know, Gene, how to be more alpha? I'm going to show you how to be alpha. It's a joke. Fiction, at least, it can make you come to a decision or realizations on your own. It's less hand-holding instead of just saying, I have figured out. Me personally, no one else in the history of the world has come up with the solution. It's only 4 bullet points. It's stupid, but people buy it, and obviously that's why you do it, is because there's an audience for it.
Big D, there is one scene in the movie that is worth a wipe on its own. A horrible, horrible disaster of a scene. It is so dumb and pointless and forced that I cannot believe that any competent film editor didn't leave it on the cutting room floor. And I'm talking about the Smurfette debate. It doesn't match any theme in this movie. It doesn't match any thread from the rest of the movie. It is giving Clerks in all the wrong ways. Just like, hey, let's have these guys talk back and forth about something weird so the kids, the late 90s, early 2000s kids can talk about it. Donnie's friends, they're chatting about how Papa Smurf made Smurfette for gangbangs. And Donnie is telling them she doesn't have genitals, and they're name dropping Gargamel. It's just so like 2001, like slick indie. And it wastes an opportunity to give us real dialogue between Donnie and the only friends he has. I was curious about these guys. Like, what do they talk about in their free time? What is his support network like? Wes talked about real dialogue. This is not how teenagers talk.
And we're talking about, Gene, 10 years. I'm a different man today. My thought process is different because of you, because of Ash, because of Carrie, because of the podcast. I think I'm more developed as a man, as a human. I'm more thoughtful. I see more perspectives. And when this came up and I saw you wanted to talk about this, I thought about how I have swayed more towards your side, Gene. I'm more woke because of you. And I think I have a woke take on this.
Okay.
So you got Smurfette was created by Gargamel. He was supposed to magically use her to infiltrate and destroy the Smurfs. Didn't work. But then Papa Smurf later transformed her into the real Smurfette using magic, made her blonde, her personality, the things that we associate today. She's the pretty, bubbly, female blonde Smurf, okay? But do we really think about Smurfette's backstory, okay? Might get a little uncomfortable for you people who aren't so woke as me. She's literally created by a man, labeled a problem, then fixed by another man so she can fit in once she's prettier, nicer, less disruptive. Everyone suddenly accepts her. So for years, she's the only woman in the village, which makes this feel to me, Gene, like a giant metaphor that no one is speaking about or nobody talks about today. It's wild how in this film, they're using this cartoon of poor Smurfette to describe the terrible patriarchy which they were all living under in the 80s. That's it. No more woke shit for me. But
I thought we were going to open the door into the communist nature of the Smurfs.
Oh, do tell.
Papa Smurf, Papa Ho. They all work together and there's no like commerce. There's no, everyone receives according to their needs and performs according to their abilities. They're a communist village.
Is that why Vanity is closeted, which they discussed? He is gay. Come on.
He's 100% gay. Yeah.
Vanity is, and who is he with? There's no other gay Smurfs.
If you have an entire species that does not have genitalia, is homosexuality a thing or are they all asexual?
You see that Vanity's got a thing for Handy.
Snorks, on the other hand.
Oh.
With their parents out of town, Donnie and Elizabeth hold a Halloween party. Gretchen arrives distraught as her mother has gone missing, and she and Donnie have sex. With Frank's prophesied end of the world only hours away, Donnie takes Gretchen and 2 other friends to see Sparrow. They're ambushed by high school bullies Seth and Ricky, who are trying to rob Sparrow's home. As they struggle, an oncoming car kills Gretchen. The driver turns out to be Elizabeth's boyfriend, Frank, wearing the same rabbit costume from Donnie's visions. Donnie shoots Frank in the right eye with his father's gun and walks home carrying Gretchen's body. Big D, I know you get all riled up when movies like Edward Scissorhands focus on nonconformity and the underbelly of suburban life. But as a person whose heart is in the Marigny, but whose ass is in Arizona, movies like this make me feel understood, like Wes did, less alone. Donnie Darko shows us a lot of disturbing things in Donnie's visions and actions. But the worst things that we see are those that are celebrated by the mainstream. George Bush, Jim Cunningham, book bans, Sparkle Motion. I think a big reason that Richard Kelly set this movie in 1988 is to take known things that didn't turn out so great and rely on the fact that hindsight is 2020, but show them in their zeitgeist when people didn't know, right? Sexualized kids taken way too seriously, guru grifters, presidents who turned out to be a little more hawkish than we anticipated, right? Meanwhile, Donnie, who is our protagonist, by all means a disturbed kid who floods a school and burns down a house, his little world is there, and it is the pure and good thing, while the mainstream is horrifying and grotesque.
Yeah, but it's artistically done. It's subtle. It's not hitting you over the head. Until you mention it, I didn't think about it. It is a great way, and I kept thinking about American Beauty as the movie went on. They're both talking about the suburbs and the suburban world and the life, and they're showing us all these messed up families. But the difference is, I think American Beauty, they focus on the dad. They focus on Lester, right? And how he wakes up to realize his life is empty. You got Donnie, who's now the teenager, and he's kind of waking up before to realize how empty he is inside.
Bravo, movie podcaster. That's brilliant.
I've been contaminated with your woke genes. You guys are getting me to think about it. But Gene, I talked about early on the weird nature of something going on, the surreal background. Something isn't as it seems. Big mystery boxes and shows have become the big deal. Time loops, alternate timelines. You could go to anybody and be like, hey, how about the multiverse? People will understand the concept.
Right.
You know, you've got Lost, you've got Stranger Things, Westworld, Manifest, Yellow Jackets, Mr. Robot, or Dark. They're popular shows today. In 2001, this must have been like the most groundbreaking and confusing thing people had seen. Now it's a normal formula. And I think maybe we have to give the movie respect for that, because there had been nothing like this. And that the movie trusted, maybe that's why Drew Barrymore put her money in and got it made, that they're going to stay engaged regardless if the plot and the characters spell everything out. Set the tone, keep it curious, and this turned into a full genre today that works. But back then, it must have been something that people had no idea what was going on.
I feel like a broken record, but I'm so glad you brought this up, Big D. When Donnie Darko came out, we didn't care why everything was happening. We just watched the movie. The most confusing shit got with mob movies. Who's that guy? So you could appreciate this movie without that mystery. Like Wes said, it's about the vibes, right? The creepy rabbit, Jake Gyllenhaal in a cool hoodie, the soundtrack, Halloween, being an outcast. Kelly created this weird world. There didn't need to be right answers, but if you wanted to get a level deeper on it, there were these Easter eggs and clues, things sprinkled through that upon, as I said, rewatch gave you a fuller picture of what was going on.
I no longer enjoy these shows the way I did before, like the Westworlds, like the problem solving. It's too much work now. I now personally gravitate towards the shows like The Leftovers or Severance or Pluribus, where it's not the how. The how doesn't matter. It's you put characters that are likable, relatable into a situation and see how they react. The reason why doesn't matter. It's more about character-driven narratives, and I think it's so much better than trying to figure out what do the numbers mean in Lost, what reality, who's inside of the server, who's a host. It's much more enjoyable now. It's more nuanced, and I think it's more developed.
Day of the Dead. I don't need to know why the zombies are there. I don't need to know why Bub can talk about Aunt Alicia. What I need to know is how the people are reacting to each other in that Everglades bunker.
Exactly.
And how it was dug, how it doesn't flood.
Exactly.
Donnie returns home in the morning as a vortex forms over his house. He drives to a nearby ridge and watches as the plane carrying Rose and Sparkle Motion flies into the vortex's wake, violently ripping off one of its engines and sending it back in time. Events of the previous 28 days unwind. Donnie wakes up in his bedroom, recognizes the date is October 2nd, and laughs as the jet engine falls into his bedroom, killing him. Around town, those whose lives Donnie would have touched wake up from troubled dreams. Gretchen rides by the Darko home, where she and Rose exchange glances and wave.
Okay, so I want to apologize to Wes and Fernando right now because I may have seemed like it's all going well. We're glowing over the film. We're talking about its cultural impact now, 24 years later, how it set up an entire genre and affected pop culture. I got to roll it back a little bit. It's not perfect. If you're going to make a movie or a show that's hard to figure out what's going on, you owe it to us. You owe it to the audience. Give us an answer in the end. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be logical, but it has to feel like something you've actually thought through. Don't tell me Lindelof the entire time with Lost said, no, we know an ending. We have an ending. They're not dead. Oh, it's not purgatory. Don't fucking lie to us. All right. And this movie, I think, walks that line a little bit here in the beginning. With Donnie, you're juggling 3 different ideas as I see it. I haven't done tons of research on it because I want it to be pure, and I know you've seen the director's cut. You got 1, Donnie's mentally ill. He's on all kinds of meds. Maybe he's got an issue. Then there's the more abstract. He's some Christ figure who's going to sacrifice himself for the common good. Then there's some time traveler and wormhole aspect. And instead of landing on one of those, they just let us deliberate. The movie just kind of shrugs it off and says, hey, you decide. And that can seem deep, but to me, it seems lazy, almost as if they left it ambiguous because they couldn't come up with a solid or original idea on what actually was happening.
I would never call you a hypocrite, but I'm a little confused here.
Okay.
Do you want this movie to be Westworld, or you want it to be The Leftovers?
Put them in a situation and see how they react.
Yeah.
Here, what are they reacting to? We know in The Leftovers, a certain percentage of the population is gone. They've disappeared. We don't address that. Here, we don't know what's going on. So we then can't say how it's affecting them. If they said, ooh, there's a wormhole and an engine came from a different time, then we can say, okay, how do they react to it? But we don't know the why.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if you're going to have a mystery, there needs to be an answer. Like Leftovers, people disappeared. The end.
Doesn't matter.
But you're not giving me clues as to how they disappeared. They disappeared. Move on.
If tomorrow wasn't guaranteed, why would you go to college? Why would you go to work? Why would you stick to the normal social norms? If you could just disappear.
Because of my animal type. A Big D, be careful what you wish for. Because as you mentioned, I watched the director's cut. And that was after watching the theatrical version because I was like, what was that extra 20, 30 minutes all about? It explains exactly what's going on. And it is an absolute abomination. There are excerpts from Sparrow's book, code on the screen.
Like Beautiful Minds?
Like, imagine like it's a close-up of Jake Gyllenhaal's eyeball with like a computer code screen overlaid with the code just scrolling, right? Like somebody's like it's in the Matrix or something is wrong with the code or the glitch or somebody's programming it, right? Basically tells us, what I'm gathering from it is that we're in a digital world with a glitch. That's just no good. The theatrical cut, it tells us enough to support the rough shape of an answer. I liken it to religion. There's a few truths, and then it's just kind of fuzzy around the edges, and you kind of make up your own mind. We know that there's a branched universe, right? Like a tangent universe. That's established. It's clear. We know that there are characters like Karen, like Dr. Thurman, who are actively driving Donnie toward an outcome that will save the primary universe. And frankly, I think that's better than having all the answers. I prefer a little bit of ambiguity. I'm not saying that it couldn't have been a better movie if the answer to all the mysteries were a better answer. It might have been. What I am saying is compared to the actual answer, the theatrical version with its ambiguity is far superior.
You see, but here's my question. Where does the break happen because Frank appears before Donnie gets out of bed at 9 minutes. So you can't just say, because we had discussed before we recorded that Donnie was just sleepwalking. But that doesn't explain the fact that at 9 minutes, he sees Frank. So where was this break into an alternate timeline? It's
when a tangent universe is created, everything is cloned, right? So it's a direct copy of our primary universe, right? The one that everyone lives in, the real timeline. But something is cloned twice. And that's what makes it wrong. So two of the same thing cannot exist at the same time. So in the case, and that's called the artifact. So in this case, the artifact is the jet engine. So there was a copying of the world, of the universe. And in that copying, that jet engine, because two existed, one of them had to go somewhere that wasn't on the plane. And that somewhere was Donnie's bedroom. And so it's right before that is when it occurs.
So you're saying that in 1855 or 1885, there were two DeLoreans?
Yes.
It all makes sense.
That can't happen. Donnie has to send the engine back to the primary universe because two cannot exist. In a primary universe, two of something can exist. In a tangent universe, they cannot.
And we're coming to this as someone who has like 15 years of multiverse, multiple timelines,
right?
Divergent time travel. And we have that. Back then, people must have been like, how many people came out to Eugene when they were, quote, pushing you a copy of this?
Yeah.
I'll talk to you after you watch it.
No, oddly enough, just like Wes, none of us cared because like you said, we didn't know what type of movie this was. We didn't like, this was like, it was like a jet engine landing in your bedroom. You know, we're all just scratching our heads in 2001 going, what the fuck is this thing? It's cool. I don't know. You know, it's like, I mean, I think about like when we listen to fucking like a real kick ass, like rock song. And you're like, I don't fucking know what this song's about, man. It's good though. Tom York singing about something. Anyway, now it's time of the podcast for our Shat Scores. Shat Scores are our way of telling you how many wipes the movie take to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's when I like your boobs. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's when everyone dies alone. Big D, we'll start with you. What is your Shat Score for Donnie Darko?
So I can tell you, Gene, this is one of those instances where I just lowered my wipe score because of what you said. I was originally going to go 2.25, but I think I'm going to go 2. I don't like it as much as you, but I think it's a fascinating movie. I think it swings big. It tries to be out there. And it explains why they had trouble getting funding for such a concept that was not usually what Hollywood wanted to do. I think you have all these threads, and I think you have the atmosphere, the cast. The soundtrack is great. The world building, it's incredible. Frank the Rabbit, that is, now when I see all the memes or when he comes up on any kind of social media, I'll know what they mean. That is a low budget, terrorizing character that is up there with, it'll give you nightmares. The movie leans too hard on ambiguity instead of giving us some kind of a payoff at the end. But I admire that they tried. And that's why I lowered it to 2. I'm comfortable. I think 2 wipes.
And I think that's fair. I think Wes and Fernando would understand that. It's a fair score, and you make a good case for it. I'm going to come in a little bit lower than that. I think it's a 1 wiper. But it's not perfect, despite some questionable casting decisions and the Smurfette scene. Donnie Darko remains one of the most rewatchable movies I've ever seen. It is maybe the most rewatchable movie I've ever seen. It's the cinematic equivalent of an urban legend or going on a ghost hunt, right? You see things, you believe, and it doesn't feel like it came from this world. It's weird that Richard Kelly has not really made a good movie after this. It was just like this lightning strike. Everything had to come together in exactly the right way. It's a phenomenon, right? And I think that's why people fell in love with it, because it shouldn't work, but it does. It's a freak of nature instead of a foundationally sound film. Like you said, 2 hours and you can't take your eyes off of it. It's just hypnotizing. There's something amazing about it. Not everything in this movie makes sense. The psychotherapist, Dr. Thurman, she's giving Donnie placebo pills. If you think a guy is a paranoid schizophrenic, he's admitted to you that he set fire to a place, that he burst a water main, right? And that he's having thought and he's hallucinating, and there's another being that's telling him to do things, destructive things. You gonna give him a placebo?
If the two of you are alone in reality, the sky will open. In a world full of questionable, ambiguous characters, she was just one of the potential villains.
But maybe she's one of the manipulated living and she's trying to make Donnie more erratic. Whoa. But then why would she call the parents and say she wants to up his dosage? Right? It's some parts of it don't add up. It's not, again, like I said, not foundationally sound, but absolutely amazing. And with 1 wipe from me and 2 wipes from me, that gives us an average wipe score of 1.5 wipes for Donnie Darko.
So it's hilarious to go back because we don't do the wipe score and then look where it falls. It happens multiple times that we'll come up to a score and then other movies that we have mentioned are in that exact range. So at 1.5, that now ties this with 3 O'Clock High,
Whoa,
Magnolia, and then a couple other ones like Scrooge, The Thing, Let It Ride, and Bloodsport. But 2 of those films that we talked about, similarities between. So I think it's in good company. It's in the 108 spot, by the way.
All right, babe, what do you have coming up next week?
Gene, next week, following the Battle of Antietam, Colonel Robert Gould Shaw is offered command of the United States' first all-African-American regiment, the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry, with junior officer Cabot Forbes. Shaw puts together a strong and proud unit, including the escaped slave Tripp and the wise gravedigger John Wallens. At first limited to menial manual tasks, the regiment fights to be placed in the heat of battle. Commissioned by Mark Z, came out in '89, and this was a big film. Academy Award nominee, made a lot of money at the box office. So I think this checks a lot of boxes.
I remember watching this film at school. Our history teacher had it on, and it's just a bunch of elementary school kids, and we're all watching it. And then the cannonball takes that dude's head off. And fucking pandemonium, papers flying, chairs getting knocked over, kids screaming and grabbing each other. And I have not seen it since I was in elementary school. I'm so excited for this one. Fucking guy's head. Well, thank you, Mark, for the upcoming commission. Thank you, Wes and Fernando, for commissioning Donnie Darko. Thank you to all the commissioners this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat The Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat The Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Watchmen, and Game of Thrones. Not a Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but I'll be watching it. You can find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop at Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
For the men of the 54th, it was time to make history.
Someday they're going to let the 54th get into it.
For the sergeant,
Time's coming when we're going to have to ante up and kick in like men.
it was time to follow his destiny. For a rebellious young soldier,
I ain't fighting this war for you, sir.
it was time to reach for glory. Denzel Washington, Golden Globe winner.
Come on!
Morgan Freeman, Glory. Rated R. Now playing at a theater near you.